up? Today I'm going to show you how to hook up a loudmouth train horn kit. First of all, let's walk through all the different parts that come with it, what you're going to need to hook it up, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty about how to hook it up. Hooking it up really isn't too bad. Mainly it's finding a spot on your car that's going to be conducive. If you have a big truck or SUV, it's easy. If you have a car, you have to be a little more creative. However, just for the fundamentals of how to hook everything up and make it work, that's what this video is going to deal with today. So first of all, you're going to need two tools to hook this up. You're going to need a wrench, and you're going to need some wire strippers, which is this part down here, and then crimpers, which is up here. If you don't have these, you can find these at any automotive store. We also have these for sale on our accessories page, so you can go check those out if you need to. Then the rest of the kit, what you're going to have is you're going to have your horns, you're going to have your air source kit, which is the pressure switch, the tank, and the air compressor. And then you're going to get 15 feet of air line, 15 feet of red and black wire, and then you're going to get 3 bags. So it's kind of important to understand what bag goes to what, so it's not as confusing for you. But just for the purpose of hooking it up, let's go ahead and get rid of the 2 that we don't need. You're going to have this bag right here, and you're going to see it has a squishy plate or squishy little pad in it. This is a vibration damper and screws and nuts for the horns. You're going to see another bag, and it's going to have just all black nuts and screws. And that's going to be going right here to the air compressor air source tank kit. But for our purposes right now, we don't really need it. So we'll go ahead and put this down. The third bag is what you're going to be working with when you hook up the kit. So let's walk through the parts of this kit. This other bag, you're going to get a little sheet of white paper that's going to lead you to the instructions. You're going to get a push button. You can hook this up directly to your car horn, or you can go ahead and have a separate push button. I prefer to have a separate push button, just in case there's an 85-year-old lady that cuts you off. You don't want to blast her with the train horn. You just want to probably give her a regular horn to make sure she knows you're there without scaring her half to death. So it gives you another option. You're going to get a toggle switch. The toggle switch has 3 prongs, by the way. The push button only has 2. The toggle switch is going to be how you turn the air source kit on and off. So say when you're gone and you're leaving it overnight, there's no need to go ahead and have power draining from your battery. Just go ahead and flip this off. No power will draw from your battery, but yet you'll still be loaded up with your 150 psi, so you'll be ready to go next time you want to blast. And you just cycle that back on to make sure it refill itself when you are using the kit. Then you're going to have 8 quick disconnects that are blue. The 8 quick disconnects, those are going to be 0.25. That's going to be used on a majority of your hookups. It's going to be used for the fuses. It's going to be used for the toggle switch. However, then you're going to have 3 light green, which are 0.187, and that's used for the push button. The push button actually has smaller prongs than the rest of the kit. You're going to notice that on all the connectors, you have 2 more than you need to everything. So essentially, you're going to have 8 connectors here, the blue ones, but you only need 7. You have 3 here, but you only need 2. You have 3 bullet connections, and these bullet connections are what's going to hook up to the horns themselves. So you use 2 bullets for the horns, but you have 3. And then you have 5 O-rings, but you only use 4. All in all, you're going to be connected to the battery 5 times. 3 grounds, 2 powers. But the ground wire that comes off the air source kit already has an O-ring on it, so you don't even need to hook that one up. So you use 4 of the 5. And then you're also going to have this piece right here, and this piece is going to be how you get your air line into your cylinder. So the very first thing when you hook up your kit, you need to make sure you have your air line attached. So for that, you're going to go ahead and just unscrew this little piece right here, which is comes on the kit, and then you're going to put your air line over the top. It's a little bit of a squeeze. You kind of got to work it around. If you want to take an easier route, you can heat it up with a big lighter real quick, soften the nylon, and then just squish it over the top. It's very important. This part is flush right here. And then you screw this down, and that's going to actually have a compression fitting in it. So by the time you wrench on this with a wrench, you're going to tighten this down. You're going to have an airtight fitting with the compression fitting. Now from the other end, the horn is going to, or the air line is going to need to be hooked into the horns. Take this end of the air line. This piece is already together. It's 2 separate pieces, but I put it together and use Loctite to make sure you have an airtight seal. So you're going to be screwing off the bigger end. And again, the compression sleeve is actually already mounted inside this bracket. So you're going to face this with the thread facing towards the end of the air line. So you put that on with the thread facing the end. And then you're just going to shove the air line into this piece here. Slide this down. You're going to tighten this up. Now it's very important that you tighten this down a lot because just like this one, it's a compression fitting, so to make sure you have an airtight seal, you're going to really wrench down on that. Now, we're going to go ahead and take this part and just bring it into the side here of the cylinder. So that's it. The air line comes right through here, comes through, we put it into the connector, and the connector into the solenoid. So there you have all your air line all hooked up. Now we just need to worry about the wiring. So I've already walked through what all these pieces are for, and I'll kind of point to them as I show you what we're using on here. But first of all, you're going to need to hook up to a power source, so battery is going to be your best option. Right here I just have a little lawn and garden one, but you're most likely to hook it into your car battery, unless you want to have more of a mobile unit. Like I said before, you're going to be connected to the battery 5 times. You're going to have 3 grounds and 2 powers. And then just from there, we're going to go ahead and run it all the way through. So first of all, let's work on the grounds. So let's ground everything out first. We'll start with the back black wire that runs off the air source kit. Like I said, it already comes with an O-ring, so there's no modifications that need to be done here. We just need to take the black wire directly to here, and then we'll hook it into our ground. Again, as I go, if this is confusing, always check the installation guide, and we also have a wiring diagram so you can help visualize what I'm doing here. So that's the first one we're going to do. Second of all, we're going to need to use one of our O-rings and hook it to a ground wire. And then on the other end, we're going to need to hook up a bullet connector. So this connection is going to have an O-ring and a bullet, O-ring and bullet, and this is going to go to ground the horns. You'll notice that both the wires on the horns are black. That just means they're dumb. So there's no power, no ground. You can go to either one, and it'll work just fine. So just go ahead and slide that bullet connector on there, and our horns are grounded. The next thing we need to ground, you'll notice that the toggle switch has 3 prongs, whereas the push button only has 2. So this one's going to have a ground, this one is not. So next thing we're going to do is go ahead and ground the toggle switch, which is going to supply power to our air source kit and also ground it. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to put an O-ring on one side, and then we're going to use one of our quick connectors. This is the one you have 8 of. You have a lot of these. We're going to be using this one a lot. So you slide that quick connect onto here, and you look at the toggle switch. You see the plus sign for power. The middle is where the actual line is going to connect to the air compressor. But as far as grounding the switch, you go to the ground. So you slide it right on there. And we have our 3 grounds. So 1 ground going to the toggle switch, 1 ground going to the horns, and 1 ground going to the air source unit. So that's our first thing we need to do. Next, we need to get power to the horns and to the air source unit. So to do that, first off, we're going to connect 2 pieces of wire. We're going to use 2 wires. 2 of them we're going to have connected with O-rings. And then 2 more of them we're going to have connected to the blue quick disconnects. So now we have power running off the battery. Now we're going to fuse everything on this kit because we want to make sure that if anything does short out, that you're protected. So you got these 2 yellow fuses. Just go ahead and use 1 for each one of these connectors. So now we got fuse power coming out of the battery. So next up, we need to hook in to the push button for the horns. So we'll go ahead and take one of these wires. And to hook into the push button, remember that we need to use the smaller 1.87 quick disconnect as opposed to the blue one. So you're using the light blue on this one. So first of all, and then on the other side, we're using the normal quick disconnect. So we're going to come into, that is for the horns. Try that again. So we'll use the, right here. And now we're going to run this to the push button. Now the power is going to come in through the one that's on the outside. The actual horn power is going to come in through the middle, but to power up this button, we're coming in on the outside. So we'll hook right in here and connect that. And now we need to connect into the horns themselves. So on this piece of wire, we're going to have one of the smaller quick connects, the light blue, which is going to hook into the middle prong. And then we're going to run this bullet connection, which is the one of the 3, right into the horns. So now we have power to the horns. So now you want to test to make sure everything's working fine. Just go ahead and hit your push button. You'll hear that clicking noise. That's not from the push button. That's from the solenoid opening and closing. So that means everything's good here. So we have power to the horns. So now we just have to get power to the air compressor and we're all ready to go. Now just like the black ground wire had an O-ring on it already, this red wire comes pre-attached with this fitting here. So all we got to do is run this right to our toggle switch. Now the power, this is going to be activated by this push button. So this is going to come into the middle prong. So the red wire from the air source to the middle prong. Hooks right in there. Now we have to get power to this button, which we're going to connect at the big plus sign. So again, we're going to take our other wire in here. It's already going to the fuse. We're going to take another piece of red wire. This one has both quick connects on both sides. Hook right in here to the fuse. And this one we're going to come in right in here to the outside. And now we have power, ground, and a line hooked up to the actual air compressor. So if this worked,
we're going to flip this switch and it should cycle on the air compressor, which it does. So it's going to take about 4.5 minutes for this thing to get 150 psi. So for right now, you have everything hooked up. You can make sure everything's working. You see very low psi. As this goes ahead and builds pressure, it'll go ahead and cycle itself off once it reaches 150.